When the cat's away, the mice will play. That's an old adage, but it's pretty good truth today, isn't it, Barry?
Yeah, it is.
You know, we're going to talk about something today that about leadership, which is not a topic that is foreign to us, but it's very timely regarding this Torah portion, which is about the golden calf. And well, you know, things just didn't go well for Aaron there, and well, the wheels on the bus just kind of fell off in the midst of this. As Moshe is up on the mountain, leaving behind Aaron, trusting him, figuring that, you know, with the events of just previous days of him accepting and walking in the anointing of the high priest, but he needed to be tested. And I would have to say that he didn't do real well on the test. What do you think?
Yeah, it wasn't his greatest moment, and it was a monkey that camped out on his back, I guess, to some degree for about the rest of his life.
Yeah.
There is a little hidden thought here, Mike. The rabbis mentioned it briefly, just in brief passing. If you go back to Exodus or Shemot 24, when Moshe went up on the mountain, it says in verse 14, he said to the elders, wait here for us to come back and see Aaron and Hur are here with you.
Mm-hmm.
Whoever has matters, let them go to them. And the rabbis asked the question, and it's a legitimate question, when they came to Aaron to encourage him to help them with a calf idol, where was Hur?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's Rashi, if I'm not mistaken, among others, who suggests that they had already killed Hur and were threatening to do so to Aaron unless he helped them.
Hmm.
So what Aaron did was under the threat of death, and he was simply trying to buy time. How, you know, and I talked about this for one of the 10-minute tours this week. Whatever they called it, Yah called it idolatry.
Yeah. We can call it all kinds of things. It really doesn't matter what we call it. You know, society can call anything normal that it wants. It doesn't really matter what man calls it. It matters what the Almighty calls it. And yes, he called it idolatry.
Yeah.
And it was a time of failure for the Hebrews. But it really kind of brings us to the place of something we've talked about so many times, that we need leadership.
Yes.
We need leadership in our day. Am I getting some feedback there?
No.
Okay. Well,
Sorry.
we need leadership in our day that is founded, that is grounded in the Scripture. Leaders that are moving forward. Because, see, sheep, and, you know, the vast majority of people, the Almighty calls us sheep, okay? It's not a real big compliment, but that's what he calls us, because that's kind of the typical nature of people today. And we've seen that through the last 2 years, I think, really elevated. Of sheep will just kind of follow somebody. And if you don't have shepherds, if you don't have leaders, the sheep are going to be led astray.
Yeah, there's in regards to that, there's a word that the Father gave me recently, a few weeks ago in prayer, and I wrote it down. When the elders are silent, the people are left to the words of the serpentine servants. And what I discerned out of that is, when leaders fail to lead and give wise and godly counsel, then those who speak under the authority of the serpent, whether they realize they're doing it or not, that's what the people are left with. If you are a leader, if you have been chosen of Yah to lead a people, to have some kind of leadership influence. And leadership is just basically you influence, whether you have a title or a tag or not. If you're the one who influences people to move in a certain direction or to have a certain understanding of things, then you are a leader. And as such, you need to speak up. When the Father gives you a word, holding it back is not benefiting anybody. It's akin to the text that says that when there is, or where there is no vision, that the people cast off restraint. And we have a dearth, an empty vacuum right now of genuine leaders. We got a lot of people saying stuff, but that doesn't mean that they're a leader, Mike.
No, we got a lot of people talking about stuff. This verse of when there is no vision, people perish. This is tied. I can't remember the reference to that, but it's tied to the Torah. And so this is why I feel like it's so important for people to understand this, that as we see this restoration that has been happening for the past, really about 40 years, he's been bringing this restoration, restoring us to the Torah.
Yeah.
But yet there's kind of a, well, is it really that important or not? Well, even this one verse of without vision, the people perish, or cast off restraint, is tied to the following of Torah. So, when I'm looking at things on social media, when I'm confronted with a teaching or something, here's my, this is where I go to. Is this person teaching the truth of the Torah, or are they teaching a watered down version of it, or are they teaching that it is done away with? Because if a person's teaching that the Torah is done away with, I really have nothing to listen to here. Why would I be listening to somebody that has the foundation of their house? They have none. It's not there. This would be like trying to walk into a house that doesn't have a foundation, and wondering if it's going to stand, and if a little wind blows, it's going to fall down, and you're going to get caught in the middle of it, and seriously injured, killed.
Well, Mike,
so if I wouldn't go to a house, go ahead.
Well, I'm just going to say, you put out a picture, I think it was yesterday, of a house being built basically upside down.
Yeah.
Not only is it necessary that we have a Torah as a foundation focus, you interpret the Brit Hadashah, what's called the New Testament, through the eyes of what was written before that, not vice versa. You can't read the Brit Hadashah and only accept, how can I put it? If you read the Tanakh through the eyes of the Brit Hadashah, then you're putting things backwards. You have to read the foundation first and then understand what's written after it. You can't begin erroneously, as we say with a new convert, read the book of John. Why don't we say start at the beginning, read Genesis? Just go look at the beginning. No, we put them out in the middle of everything without a foundational understanding of what has already been declared, so that they understand what John's even talking about.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't start a kindergartner with trigonometry. You have to teach them basic math first. They have to even know what the numbers are. So
yeah. It'd be very difficult it's difficult to teach children fractions when they don't know what 2 + 2 is. That was an interesting post. I never imagined that post would end up going to so many different levels. We've had at this point in time, 24 hours later, over 200 people reacting. It's been shared numerous. I mean, I can't remember the numbers. It's shared reactions, all kinds of things to it. But then it became this attack on Paul. That was never my intent. I was never intending to attack the writings of Shaul, but someone did. And that caused a different conversation to arise. But here's the focus. This was like judging the shingles. You don't understand the shingles. You don't understand the trusses of a house unless you understand the floor joists of a house.
Yeah.
So if you try to judge the trusses, what makes up the roof, for those that have never been around construction at all, if you try to understand what's going on in the roof, but you haven't understood what's going on under your feet, you're confused. So I had to step in there and I know the person that did this. I think they were very innocent in their conversation. I actually deleted some posts of people that started to attack. I'm not going to allow that. It's my post, and so you put something stupid and you come back and you don't find it. There's a reason I deleted it. But there's a misunderstanding today, and we're trying to work this out. Let's face it. We have about 40 years of this restoration. I know very few people that have been in this walk more than 10 to 15 years. You and I have been around it for over 20 now. You're the old timer. I'm the older timer. There's people that have only been, I met somebody the other day. Well, we've been in this for about 6 months. Wow. Okay. Understanding the milk of the word. Going back, we've got a grandson in Korea. He's about to start kindergarten. That's a good place to start. You don't, as you said, you don't start him in college. You start him in kindergarten, starting with the basics. So we need leaders that are willing to put the cookies on the bottom shelf. I mean, that's something I've tried to do for years. I'm just a cookies on the bottom shelf kind of person.
Maybe or
somebody comes along.
Explain what that means, Mike, for those that are not familiar with your understanding of that.
So cookies on the bottom shelf to me is this, that you go into a store, into your typical, Ingles or Food Line or wherever you go to get your groceries. And you got shelves. You got the bottom shelf, you got the top shelf. And when you're my height, I go into a store and it's not unusual for some lady to be standing there trying to reach up a little bit on the top, to get something up there. And I kind of walk up and go here and hand. I did that the other day, and the lady says, "Could you give me 4 more?" That's fine. So I end up, 4 more in her basket, but not everybody can reach.
Her buggy.
Huh?
Buggy.
A buggy. Okay, I'm sorry. Buggy. Yeah. You know where Barry's from. It comes out. You can take the man out of Grassy Creek, but you can't take Grassy Creek out of the man.
It's a buggy.
The buggy. All right. The shopping cart, whatever it is. So, you got people that can reach the top shelf, but a child coming along can only reach the bottom shelf. So if you don't put the cookies on the bottom shelf, those that are new, those that are just born, those that are infants, toddlers, cannot reach them. So what about us? What about those of us that have been around for a little while? Hey, I can reach the top shelf. Well, sometimes it doesn't hurt to humble yourself and kneel down and to be familiar with the lower shelves again.
Right. This past Shabbat, Mike, I had someone, I mentioned the term Shavuot, just in passing. And it was a first time attender, and they looked at me and said, what is Shavuot? What is that? And so I spelt it for them and said Pentecost. Oh, they got it. But I mean, if you're praying for new folks to come to your congregation and you're not willing to break it down and teach at a different level, you sometimes you have to teach at a level here, but also then over explain it over there, because you have people in your audience who may not understand otherwise, and they may leave scratching their head and say, I didn't get anything out of that. You have to give them something. And then your normal attenders who may have a well-versed understanding of Torah and its terminologies, etc., have to understand we have new folks with us and we need to be patient. And it may be good for us to go back to some elementary foundational concepts and hear them again.
I've got two. I've got one family. They've got two boys, and James and Judd are just amazing young guys. I can't remember exactly how old they are, but 8, 9, and a little bit less than that, something in that area. James and Judd are the ones that will stop me in the middle of what I'm doing. I'm going through something and I see Judd's hand go up, and it's like, okay, stop. And so I'll ask, he'll ask a question, and his questions are so amazing to me, but it just brings me back to this place of understanding that I need to be speaking to those like Judd that are very new. They're young. I mean, he's young because he's young. He's not going to have the understanding of somebody that's been around for a while. But if I don't speak in a way that's clear to him, here's what happens, Barry, is that, and I've seen this in Christian, everywhere you go, no matter what you do, there is a phraseology. When you start talking music, I tone out. No pun intended. Well, maybe. I tone because I don't understand it. You were telling me the other day about this guitar you got, and how the bolts or the screws or something were loose on some part, and I'm like, Barry, I don't care. All right. Because I listen to you, brother. I listen to you, and I try to be attentive, but I didn't care. So every when I was in air traffic control, phraseology. Yeah. In preparedness, we have a phraseology. In Christianity, there's it was called Christianese. And so I remember those early days of, they were talking about, sanctification and consecration and this occasion and that occasion and all of these things. And it's like, I don't know what you're talking about. And well, here's what happens, Barry, is that you have people that are talking in their phraseology to people that don't know the phraseology. And then with the revolving door thing that happens, those that knew the phraseology end up leaving to go somewhere else. And those that didn't know the phraseology are now using the words but don't know what they mean.
Yeah, we can applaud ourselves for our terminologies and actually be saying nothing to anyone.
That's right. So leadership should be about learning communication with the audience that you've been given. Back to Aaron. He failed in communicating the standard of Moshe to the people.
Yeah, and maybe he felt threatened. Maybe he felt enlightened. Maybe he felt a lot of different things. I cannot suppose that I understand what was going on in his mind. And who knows, we said, well, if I had been there, I would not have done whatever. Well, you weren't there. You don't know the circumstances. And given the current circumstances and people's reactions, yeah, you probably would have. We probably would have.
Yeah.
Let's go to a little different vein of thought on the other side of this, Mike. And that is the desperate need for men and women to step up. We have a void, especially within the roots community, of effective, vibrant, and seasoned, keyword there, seasoned leadership. We have this infection. I'm going to say it's a viral infection that has been resident in the Hebrew roots community for a couple decades at least. And that is this, Mike. It's an angst against previous organizational leadership where people feel like that they were lied to or misinformed or led astray or whatever, however they want to phrase it. And so they don't trust leadership. You cannot have an effective congregational setting, a group of people who meet together, whether it's a handful in the living room or 10, 20, 30 in a room or more, without leadership. Somebody has to be accountable. Somebody has to give some direction. Somebody needs to take on responsibility of caregiving. Someone or some group of people have to have a sense of authority enough to say that doctrine's not correct and we're not going to have that here. So without that, sheep are trying to lead sheep and they just huddle together and they go nowhere and they do nothing. And if one sheep decides to eat itself off the side of a cliff, everybody will follow. It's not wisdom. We need men and women. It's in my opinion, this Barry Phillips translation here, it's effective for a man and his wife to stand together and say, this is the way, walk in it. And we have a great dearth right now and emptiness in that regard.
You bring up a couple different things here. First of all, yes, in any situation where you have more than one person, somebody's going to step up and lead. It's a fact of life that someone is going to lead. Now, if the one that is ordained and appointed, and I'm not saying ordained with a piece of paper, okay, but the scripture gives us an authority to an order to walk in. Let's take it in the home, that it is in, and I know that, we have people that are listening or watching, divorced and all kinds of things. Okay. I'm not judging any of that, but what I'm saying that this is the scriptural pattern of leadership for a home. And that is the man, the husband, the father, would lead the home in righteousness through a loving, caring, and humble attitude. It is not the children that are to lead. It is the father that is called to lead. If you have a man in a house that is not leading, then the wife will step into the leadership. I applaud ladies that have had to do that. That's not the scriptural pattern for things. So when we step out of that, even though it has to happen, somebody has to do this, but you step out of that pattern and things just don't work like they're supposed to. Number two is that there is as you say, an angst. not a word that I normally use, but a burr under the saddle that some people have toward those that have the pioneers, those that have gone before. Barry, you've been in ministry, I think, longer than I have. I'm coming up on a lot of years, 30 something years. I've been teaching this this lifestyle, the Torah, for over 20. I've taught preparedness. I've taught a number of different things. If I was able to go back, do it again, I do it different. There's a lot of things I do different.
Yeah.
I don't have that opportunity. I had to learn in this thing of restoration. It's so many times with the pioneers, they cut a trail, and then somebody else came along and went, hey, there's a better way to go. All right, well, let's do that. Yeah, but don't get mad at the person that cut the trail that allowed you to find a different trail or a better trail. And that's what's happening today.
Yeah.
With a lot of young so-called leadership, is they're so angry at the pioneers that blazed a trail so that they can find where they're at. They need to go and yeah, some of the leaders need to repent. I've gone to various groups, my own church, when I after I quit pastoring, we went through some things, and I went back to them, those that were, that were still together. I went back to them and said, I need to ask your forgiveness. I taught you some things that were wrong. Now I'm here to show you a better way, but please don't ever lose the hunger that we sought the Father after. But let's get this better path, this path that's more in line. Leaders need to go back at times and say, I made some mistakes along the way. I'm sorry, but I never did so in a way. I was never trying to lead anybody astray. I was just trying to clear the path.
There is an example in Scripture in the book of Acts where Apollos is passionately and with great charisma preaching the word. And Aquila and his wife Priscilla take this young evangelistic preacher under their wing and groom him and train him, saying, you speak well, but let me show you a better understanding of what it is you're proclaiming.
Yeah.
Rav Shaul said, let me show you a more excellent way. Kiva in his latter days wrote concerning what he saw as usurpers coming in with powerful words and deceptive words and leading people into a version of truth that wasn't truth at all. And he gave a lot of warning. Yochanan in his first, second, and third books again warned about those that were under the anti-Messiah spirit and teaching falsehoods. So there's a lot of erroneous leadership to be careful of. But there's a lot of genuine people, Mike.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot of leaders of small little groups that we have no idea that they even exist. Tucked away in a small town or hidden in a large town in a little corner, and nobody knows much that they're there. But they're studying, they're praying, and they're pouring out their hearts before Him, and they're teaching what they know.
Yeah.
We need them to step forward. And when you're praying for those that you do know, take a few moments and pray for those that are unknown to you. When if you're praying for Mike and for Barry, thank you so much. I take all the prayer we can get. But don't fail to mention, Father, the unknown to me. The leaders that are leading and groups that I have no idea of, I'm praying for them as well. There is a need. And my heart breaks for this. There are couples that study alone in their homes. Someone comes to mind now in another country. And the nearest believer and anything similar to what they believe in is all the way on the other side of the country.
Yeah.
Thousands of miles apart. And so they're isolated and they're alone. What do? They study as fervently as they can among themselves, and then they look online. Online leadership, it's a privilege to lead in such fashion.
Yeah.
But it's a great accountable responsibility as well. When I do 10-minute Torahs, I'm not just looking to say something. I have, Laura says, how long does it take? It's only 10 minutes segments. But I tell her frequently, I have to say something.
Yeah, you spend hours.
Just for one particular 10-minute segment, I'm looking through stuff, and I'm looking through old notes, and I'm looking through scriptures, and I'm praying, and what comes to mind. Now, how do I say it, and how do I encapsulate it? How do I do this? What is the end result of what I'm going to say? All of that, it takes time. And I'm not trying to bang my own drum here. I'm just saying that when people do what they do, it's not something they just sit down in front of a mic and the camera and start talking. And if you're doing that, then you're not helping anybody. Take some time and pray. Be effective. We have need of leadership. If you see someone teaching, speaking, etc., listen to what they say, pray for them. But there's nothing wrong with saying, can I ask you a question? Throwing a firebomb at them. You said, and it's wrong. I had somebody texted on a Shabbat teaching, you're not Hebrews. And I'm thinking, okay, delete. That's a rabbit trail, an argumentative thought here. I have no time for that. So throwing firebombs at people is not going to help. But if you have a legitimate question, you said, but what is this? This text over here says something else. Can you help me? If you phrase your questions right, you can get a reasonable response without somebody throwing up a wall of defense.
Yeah. I think that, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I was counting this morning. I started out teaching Sunday school. And from the time I taught Sunday school and today is about 46 years.
Wow.
I've been standing in a pulpit since 1983. So that's about 40 years.
Yeah.
I've been in a pastoral situation for about 30 of those years. And I still make mistakes. I'm still not the leader I can be. And there are times that I have to grab myself up by the scuff of my own neck and say, you rascal, you're going to pray today, you're going to study today, you're going to lead today. Because, any leader can get depressed. Ask Elijah, ask David. Any leader can fall off the wagon. Ask David. Ask any of the disciples. Anyone can follow the wrong crowd. Ask Aaron. But Yah has a way of redeeming leaders and pulling them back up and refining them through fire and making them effective again. Because somebody makes a mistake, folks, don't throw them in the trash. Pray for them. Ask the Father's refining on them. And when they speak truth, acknowledge it.
Yeah. The testing of a leader is, in the end, the testing of the people. The testing of Aaron was a testing of the people. And it's not just that Aaron made some mistakes, but the whole group. There was issues there that had to be brought to the surface. I got a good response to you for Laura. Next time she asks you about, well, it's only 10 minutes. Just say, yeah, I've spent a lifetime preparing for 10 minutes, and that's really the truth. You spend a lifetime. You talked about all these times of teaching Sunday school, all this stuff. You spend a lifetime preparing for the 10 minutes. I spent a lifetime preparing for the 50-minute living tour that I do. I got one thing to close, and that is this. There's one question. Whoever is a leader that you look up to as a leader, you should ask them one question. Where are you going? If they cannot answer that question in a scriptural manner, then find somebody that's going in the right direction.
Yeah, indeed.
Plain and simple.
If you got a leader, pray for them.
You got that right. Yeah, because you need the prayer, or I need the prayer, and you need the practice.
Yep. So, folks, thank you for watching today. Thank you for your comments, questions, sharing on your social media pages. Anything you can do to help promote Foundations for Life, we very much appreciate it. So Mike and I will be back again next week. And until then, shalom, folks.
See you, Barry.